Justin? Ready? We'll call this meeting to order. Churchill County Commission, December 20th. It's 1:15 p.m. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first public comment, if there is any comment on any items that are not on the agenda. Seeing none, we will move forward. Verification and posting of the agenda.
Yes, Julianne Ikonen for the record. The agenda was posted on the 14th day of December 2023 between the hours of 1 o'clock and 5 o'clock p.m. at the locations listed on the agenda in accordance with statutes.
Thank you. We will move forward with the approval of the agenda. We've removed item B from the appointments. And so I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the agenda as revised.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as revised. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. We'll now move forward and approve the minutes of November 15th, 2023, both the departmental tours and the regular meeting.
I move to approve the minutes of the meetings held on November 15th, 2023, departmental tours, and November 15th, 2023, regular meeting.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the meetings on November 15th, 2023. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Unanimous. Thank you. We will move forward with appointments. Our first appointment is Employee Service Awards. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you guys would assume your positions. Again, this is our annual quarterly report of service awards for employees that have been with the county for over 5 years. Chris, if you'll come give me a hand, you'll be my shuttle.
Even better.
Up. And our Julie, are you going to take pictures? Okay. So we would like to recognize our first recipient with 5 years of service from the Comptroller's Office, Trinique Clifford. Congratulations. Go there, go there, go there, go there. Congratulations, Trinite. Also with 5 years of service, working in the county manager's office, Ann McMillan. Congratulations, Ann. Now everybody knows why she's not taking the pictures.
You want her to take a selfie?
Right? That would be appropriate. Congratulations, Ann. And a big jump in service with 15 years at the Sheriff's Office, Rudy Manez. Congratulations. Congratulations to Rudy and the rest of our service recipients. We appreciate your dedication to the county.
This conference will now be recorded.
Want to start over, Pam?
Mr. Fritz or Kelly, can you tell me if you can hear us? We had a little technical difficulty here.
We can hear you now, but there was a minute that we weren't hearing anything.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
We will bypass B, the BLM update. Apparently they're under the weather. And we will move to C. Consideration possible action, presentation of a comprehensive annual financial report for the General Churchill County and CC Communications for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. Sherry.
Thank you. We were going to have our auditors give a short presentation, and I will follow up with a short presentation. We completed our audit on time, and we didn't need an extension this year, and they are at the go-to meeting, so I will turn it over to Chad and Kelly from Hindenburg.
All right, thanks, Sherry. I'll begin, and I guess you'll let us know if you can't hear us.
Can you see our slides?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. I'm Chad Atkinson. I'm with Hindenburg. I've got Kelly Jones-Mesco with me, audit manager on the engagement. So we're going to divide and conquer today. We plan to give a similar presentation to what was presented yesterday in the audit committee meeting. So we're happy to be here and do that. Let's go to our first slide. We wanted to first of all say thank you to the county and also to CC Communications for their staff in the exchange of information to complete the audit and to do so in a timely manner. We appreciate working with them and thankful for their assistance in completing this endeavor. Also, we wanted to just point you to a couple of documents in the annual comprehensive financial report known as the ACFR that you may want to refer to, that are prepared by management to give insight and explanation for things that have occurred in fiscal year 2023, the letter of transmittal and management's discussion and analysis. And you can find those in the table of contents. They're the shortened version of the full financial report that's included in your package. So I'm going to cover the audit reports. The audit reports, we issued an unmodified opinion or clean opinion on the financial statements. That can be found on page 15. We don't believe there are any material modifications that need to be made to the financial statements as presented. Another report that we issue is on page 215 on internal controls over financial reporting and on compliance. We're happy to report that there were no internal control deficiencies that we came across in our test work during fiscal year 23. So we congratulate the county and also CC Communications for that. There was a minor issue pertaining to the NRS, which and a compliance issue that was issued as 2023-001. And in your financial statements, it's detailed on page 225. Essentially, there was a new fund created in CC Communications, the CAP fund, and the CAP fund did not have a budget prepared for it. And so at the end of the audit process, as we went through, we identified that there was no budget in place for this fund. And so that's what this budgetary compliance finding has to do with. We believe the matter has been recognized and addressed and will be taken care of in future budgeting cycles. So are there any questions on that matter, there is a corrective action plan for this compliance violation that's on page 227 that was prepared by Jamie Hyde from CC Communications. Any questions there? Okay, we'll keep going. We also perform test work on your federal programs that the county receives federal assistance. And on page 221, there's a report that talks about whether there are internal control deficiencies or non-compliance related to the federal programs. And I'm happy to report that we did not come across any matters of non-compliance or internal control deficiencies pertaining to your federal awards. The federal award program that was tested during our process was the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds that have been received in the past couple fiscal years. So no problems or issues noted on that. I also wanted to just recognize that the county continues to be a low-risk auditee, which is listed on page 224. This is favorable for grantors and other agencies that may be looking at the county to provide additional grants and opportunities to the county. So that's a favorable thing to have, and the county continues to have that. So I think our next slide is to switch over into some financial highlights, and I'll turn the time to Kelly to go through those with you, and we'll answer questions.
Yeah, as noted, we always like to mention that the funds operated within their approved budgets. As already mentioned, all funds did operate except for that CAP fund, which is described in that finding. If you want to look at the changes in fund balances for governmental funds, we would guide you to page 36. There's a line item at the bottom of that, as well as on page 41 for the business type funds, the change in net position, to show you how the funds changed during fiscal year 23. And we'll go into more detail on those in the following slides. For the general fund, there was a change in fund balance, which decreased 4.7 million during fiscal year 23. And that can be seen on that page 36. This decrease is mostly related to a transfer out to the special ad valorem capital project fund during fiscal year 23. That left some fund balance categories. We have unassigned fund balance, which is the red line, and that decreased $4 million down to 1.6 million of unassigned fund balance at the end of fiscal year 23. This currently leaves about less than a month of expenses or operating expenses that can be paid by this unassigned fund balance. The GFOA would recommend 2 months. So just something to consider, but there is an assigned fund balance, which is the purple line, of $5 million, and that assigned fund balance is appropriated for fiscal year 24 expenditures. The only other item making up fund balance in the general fund is this non-spendable line at the bottom, which is made up of prepaid items of $30,000. The general fund is stable and doing well.
Lindsay, could you come over here? I'm trying to listen to the church.
Next, we have the road fund. The road fund balance went down overall 172,000. That fund balance is made up of 2 categories, assigned and restricted. Assigned is the green line, and it went up 128,000, and restricted, which is the blue line, went down 300,000, and they're both sitting at 954,000 and 907,000 respectively. So the road fund is doing well as well. The Special Ad Valorem Capital Project Fund is a new major fund in fiscal year 23. There was a lot more activity in this fund. So the fund balance increased 23 million. This is related to two items: the transfer from the general fund, which I already mentioned, as well as the one-time Navy funding that went to this fund for 15.5 million. This left fund various categories in fund balance, which is made up of assigned of the 15.5 million from the Navy funding, committed of 7.2 million, and then restricted for capital projects at 2.6 million. And I believe that this fund is intended for the district courthouse project, all this funding. Moving on to the business type funds, we have the CC Communications Telephone Fund. The change in net position was 1.6 million. The net investment in capital assets is down 5.7 million. This is just due to depreciation and unspent bond proceeds decreased. So those two items outpaced the purchase of new capital assets during the year. This resulted in the unrestricted net position increasing 7.3 million. So the telephone fund has 8.4 months of operating reserves in unrestricted. So this fund is on a good trend and is doing well. In the broadband fund, the change in net position was a decrease of 7.2 million. The bulk of that is due to the establishment of the CAP fund during fiscal year 23. A lot of the fund balance and activities that were in broadband were transferred to the CAP fund, which resulted in this overall decrease in net position. The net investment in capital assets went down 10.9. Again, that's just related to the movement of capital assets from broadband to the CAP fund. And then unrestricted net position increased 3.7 million. And so there is about 6.9 months of operating reserves in unrestricted. So this fund is also on a good trend in fiscal year 23. The newly established CAP fund, its net position increased 8.8 million. As I mentioned, a lot of that is just due to transfers from broadband. The net investment in capital asset is at 10.2 million for all of those capital assets, which is offset by debt that was moved over to the CAP fund, leaving an unrestricted net position of negative 1.5 million. So that's just something to keep in mind. We would recommend that the unrestricted net position be built up for future expenses. Then we have the wastewater enterprise fund. The total change in net position was a decrease of 717,000. The net investment in capital assets decreased 749,000, mostly due to depreciation, and then which left an unrestricted net position of an increase of 31,000. And there's currently 20 plus months of operating reserves in unrestricted net position for the wastewater fund. Lastly, just the overall cash balances between the governmental funds and the business type funds at the end of fiscal year 23. The governmental funds increased 15.8 million and is currently at 61 million. And the business type funds decreased 5.5 million and is at 14 million at the end of fiscal year 23. Any questions on the financial trends?
Any questions or comments? Sherry, you had some additional things to say.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for the audit. It was a pleasure working with you, and now I'm just going to have a quick PowerPoint presentation, just to touch on some highlights, financial highlights. If we can go to the second page, please. This is on page 22 of the statement, the bound statement that I gave you guys. This is bouncing back. Can you fix us out on this? Does yours work better? Oh.
It's from the Zoom
Oh, okay. Just let me know when, is it better now? Okay, thank you. Anyway, this is just a highlight of the net position that the auditors were just speaking of. If we look at the governmental activities, the net position is up about 21.6 million, and the business activities are up 2.7 million. Next page, please. Yeah, I gotta keep you guessing. And these are just snapshots out of the statements that I passed out. This is page 23, and this gives you a little idea of where the revenues are coming from. We have the program revenues, the general revenues, and expenditures. You can see that governmental revenues were up 18.8 million, and our expenditures were up 6.7 million. And again, that was compared to 22, and we also got the Navy expansion money of the 20 million in there, and we also got COVID money. And then for the business type activities, their revenues were up 1.5 million, and their expenditures were up 1.2, and that includes water, sewer, and all CCCOM and the golf course.
Where do you have the Navy expenditure of the money from the Navy?
It's still sitting in there. We put 15 million of it in the ad valorem tax fund that we're going to be building the district court out of, and 5 million was put into the general fund to cover flood mitigation. Okay, next page, please. And this just shows you the revenues in a picture style, so you can see where we're getting our revenues. You can see that the intergovernmental was large, and again, that was mainly due to the Navy money. Next slide. And then this is just a 10-year trend for revenues. This can be seen on page 193. This is all from the statistical section, so if you want to look at like 10 years, what expenditures have been, that's a great section to look at. So you can see our tax revenues, our licenses, intergovernmental, and so this gives you a snapshot of where our revenues are coming from and how they've changed over the last 10 years. And then we have a graph of the expenditures and where our expenditures are coming from. Again, the biggest portion here is public safety, but that is where we spent the flood mitigation out of. So that's why that's quite larger this year, and that's on page 194 in the statement. So that gives you a graphed view of our governmental expenditures. Next page, and then this gives you the detail behind there, where we've been spending our money and the dollar values in the general fund, judicial, public safety, public works, health and sanitation welfare. And you can see the percentage changes from the year before on the right side. And there's another graph of the governmental expenditures over the last 10 years, and the red line is our revenues. And that's a snapshot of what's in the statements. Do you have any questions on those?
Any questions for our auditors or for Sherry?
Thank you.
Then I will entertain a motion.
I move to accept the audit report and related findings for the comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the audit report and related findings for the comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. Thanks, Sherry.
Thank you.
Our next item is appointment D, consideration possible action, notice of application 92989, filed with the state engineer from Granite Springs Ditch and Pipeline Company LLC to appropriate water from the Granite Springs Valley, Pershing County, for application in Churchill County. Chris?
Good afternoon, Sheriff Sharman and Commissioners. It's good to be. Pardon me? Okay. Great to be before you again. Chris Mahana for the record. I think this will be the 5th time I've appeared before this commission on similar attempts to export water out of Granite Springs Valley over the last literally 19 years. So the map we have up right now is a kind of a summary map of what is intended with this latest application to appropriate 3,000 acre feet in Granite Springs Valley and pipe it roughly 30 miles. The little black dot on the top is the point of diversion. You can see a pipeline alignment coming to the southwest to the blue square there. It's a section of ground where they're proposing to install 4 center pivot sprinklers and put it to irrigation use. The accompanying the application is an agreement. So this is, again, an export from Pershing County to Churchill County, moving from Granite Springs to Fireball Valley for irrigation purposes. But in the supporting information in the application, they've provided an agreement, a water sales agreement. Actually, Pam, you can stay on the original map, please. Yeah, stop right there. So they've provided a water sales agreement between Granite Springs Pipeline, which is seeking to appropriate this water, and TOT LLC and 40 Mile LLC, which own the lands in the magenta color down near Hazen, which is the Tim Tucker Estate properties, and then the light teal are the 40 Mile LLC parcels. So although the application's for irrigation, the agreement is clearly for a quasi-municipal water project. Let's go ahead and scroll down to the next slide a little bit. All right, stop right there. So it's a little bit hard to see, but this is the 5th attempt of Aquatrack or now they're calling themselves Granite Springs Pipeline to export water out of Granite Springs Valley. The upper group there were filed in 2005, 2006, seeking massive amounts of appropriations out of Granite Springs and at that time Camiva Valley a little further to the north. To the tune, you can see that last batch there of 130,000 acre feet. Churchill County, Sea Punch Ranch, Pershing County, we all spent a great amount of time going to a water right hearing. It was denied unanimously back in 2007 in ruling 5782. Another batch was filed shortly thereafter, again in 05, 06. Didn't go to hearing, but was denied again, ruling 6063, which referenced the prior ruling. Jumping forward to 2001, filed 3 more applications. You can see that the amount of water is gradually decreasing. They're down to 16,000 acre feet. This was denied in a letter without a ruling, again referencing back to the original ruling. Then earlier this year, 6 months ago in July, they filed 3 more applications, reduced the duty yet again to $3,500, again for quasi-municipal. That application was flatly rejected by the state engineer, wasn't even sent to publication. So then in September of this year, they filed the 5th application, seeking the 3,000 acre feet for irrigation this time, as I mentioned, and that's the application before us today, which I'm recommending that the county protest. Next slide, Pam, please. So this is just let's maybe zoom out. There we go. So this is a map of, again, the point of diversion up on the top, the end point, the section of ground, and then the lower is a topographical cross section over that roughly 30 miles. And you can see the net elevation gain is about 1,700 feet of elevation. So considerable pumping costs associated with doing a project like this. Let's go down to the next slide. All right, so I've provided Joe with a draft protest, and I'll just briefly go through the major provisions. The first is the waters are fully appropriated in Granite Springs Valley. The USGS estimates the perennial yield at 4,500. Current commitments are at roughly 4,700. Water levels are declining with that current use. The applicants are claiming some unique technologies which they presented 15 years ago and were overcome. But that they still raise that argument. The project's highly speculative. As I mentioned, the agreement, well, let me back up. Part of the reason they were denied the first time is due to anti-speculation, that they didn't have an end user, they didn't have an agency agreement with an end user of the water. So they've created this agreement between Granite Springs or Granite Pipeline and 40 Mile LLC, both of which have the exact same managing partner. So it's certainly not an arm's length agreement, but that apparently is their attempt at getting around the anti-speculation. Probably the thing that's different about this is that there is no reasonable expectation that this water would ever be put to beneficial use for irrigation purposes for multiple reasons. So this is a zoom in of that section of ground, and those two red diagonals through there are two NV Energy electrical transmission lines, 345 kV transmission lines. There's 14 130-foot towers. In the lower right, you can see kind of a blue line. That's a buried natural gas pipeline. It would be probably an impossible or a very expensive proposition to reroute a major transmission line. It's pretty evident to me that the applicants never even visited this site. Their water right map states that they drew this section based on county GIS mapping. So it's a little surprising that they wouldn't have recognized this before they decided that's where they were going to put 4 center pivots. You all know what center pivots are. They're above ground. They rotate, certainly not compatible with transmission lines. Other factors, the soil survey for this area, it's rocky soil, it's undulating. I'll show a couple photographs. It's scattered with volcanic rock. Be a massive undertaking in grading soil amendments to make this irrigable. Just getting to this site requires a 4-wheel drive truck along the natural gas pipeline right away, extremely undulating. There's no way you get a semi-truck in there to install pivots or haul the alfalfa to market, which is what they're proposing. It's certainly not economically feasible to pump water 30 miles, that elevation head, to grow alfalfa. They've estimated the cost to do this, which I think is underestimated, about $45 million. If you just do some back of the envelope economics, the Central Nevada Regional Water Authority is implemented a water right retirement program. They had Hansford Consulting do an economic analysis of ag operations on the Humboldt, determined that the net revenue from an ag operation on the Humboldt is about $200 an acre. You do the math times 500 acres, putting in 4 pivots. That's roughly $100,000 a year of net revenue, which I haven't done the engineering, but that probably would not even cover the power costs to get the water there, not to mention paying a note on $45 million construction project. So in summary, the project, number one, I don't think will ever be built. It's not sustainable hydrologically, economically, or environmentally. And I guess bottom line for Churchill County, you folks need, if you have water coming in, it needs to be sustainable, because the county would be the ultimate folks responsible for providing that water if it was ever brought in for QM purposes. Let's go ahead and scroll down a couple more. Just I have some photographs just to see. So this is a little bit hard to see, but the upper photo is an aerial photograph. If you zoom in a little bit, you can see the two power lines. The lower photos just gives you an idea of the size of these transmission towers. Again, 14 of them just within that section. And then if Pam, you scroll down a little bit more, that's the gas line that runs through the middle of it. And then this is what at least half of that section looks like. So this application will be protested by Truckee Carson Irrigation District, Central Nevada Regional Water Authority, Humboldt River Basin Water Authority, and the Sea Punch Ranch, which owns all the irrigation rights within Granite Springs. There's 3 or 4 more entities that likely will protest. I'm waiting to get confirmation on them. So with that, happy to answer any questions if you have them. Thank you.
Any questions for Chris? Or comments?
Chris, if this water right transfer is approved, what damage to Churchill County is there? Is there any at all? Or will we be responsible to maintain that, or? Because this is transferring water into Churchill County, not transferring it out.
Correct. If it's transferred in and used just for irrigation in Churchill County, there shouldn't be any harm. I mean, there would potentially be some tax revenue from 500 acres of more ag in Churchill County. But it's clearly what they're attempting to do is get a permit, kind of a stepping stone, if you will, get a permit for irrigation, never perfect it, and then file a change on that to their ultimate goal is for quasi-municipal use in Churchill County or elsewhere. I mean, that table, when they first started, it was over 7 million acres of northwestern Nevada, included all of Washoe County, Lyons, Story, Churchill, I mean, going down to Yerington, so.
Justin, I might be able to, I guess, add something to that. And so the concern would be if that change was placed and some user ended up building a facility requiring that water here in Churchill County, and then obviously the water doesn't actually exist and it dries up. We have people who have invested heavily in Churchill County, and somewhere they're going to need the water, whether that comes from the county or from, I guess, being run out of town by not having the water.
Yeah, and I guess to follow up my answer to you, Commissioner Heath, is it would be a bit of a harder argument to oppose the transfer from irrigation into Churchill County if that appropriation had already been approved. A big part of this is the water's just not available in Granite Springs Valley.
Miles? I have a couple of questions. Is Pershing County dealing with this, this recommendation?
Churchill County, or I'm sorry, Pershing County has already filed a protest. To be honest, I haven't followed up with the reason this is agendized today is because it's a inter-basin, inter-county transfer. So each commission has to hold a hearing just like you guys are today. Whether Pershing has done that yet, I don't know, but they have filed a protest.
They're moving in the direction that this is agricultural. Are they masking that? Are they really looking at
housing developments?
Yes. Yes, that's patently clear with the agreement that's attached to this, that it's a water sales agreement from Granite Springs Pipeline to TOT LLC and 40 Mile LLC, those lands on that map 1 that are all in Churchill County, that you would be for either quasi-municipal or industrial type development.
I see. Thank you.
And that's one of my protest grounds, is that the application is confusing. On the face of it, if you look at the 4 corners of the 2 pages, it's an irrigation transfer. But when you look at the supporting information, clearly that's not their end goal. And like I said, it's not economically feasible to move major transmission lines, gas lines, and try and irrigate a rock pile.
Chris, do those other areas on the map, the 40 Mile Desert LLC and the TOT LLC, do they have water rights already? Do you know?
I haven't researched all of those, but I would say generally none of them have water rights. I mean, the TOT properties, though, that's the Hazen Industrial Park that's gone back literally generations, from Matthews Homes 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and now it's in Mr. Tucker's estate. And they're trying to get water for that project, as well as apparently some of these 40 Mile Desert parcels that are private, checkerboarded in with the BLM stuff.
Any other questions? Then I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to recommend to the state engineer to deny application 92989.
Second it?
It's been moved and seconded to recommend to the state engineer to deny application 92989. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Unanimous. Thanks, Chris.
I guess you guys turn this.
Appointment E, consideration possible action, presentation of a public lands and natural resources tract list. Jeremy.
Chairman,
It's the bottom red one.
The microphone one, the one that has the microphone picture on it. There you go.
the big red blinky light?
If you
Thank you.
can't push the button, you can't present.
Exactly. And I'm done. For the record, Jeremy Drew with Resource Concepts. Just since we're at the end of the year, I'd be remiss if I didn't say I appreciate working and representing this county for another year, and Merry Christmas to all. I will be quick because this is just an update on some of the issues we're tracking. Obviously, the FRTC modernization continues to be front and center on our playlist as we've moved into implementation now that the withdrawal is authorized. We've been meeting, we've probably had 3 meetings over the last 3 or 4 months with the BLM cadastral survey folks on getting the Navy withdrawal boundaries properly described, basically taking our big paper map from what I call GIS precision to survey on the ground precision. I think we've done a good job of conveying our thoughts on that, and for the most part are in alignment with what those boundaries should look like. The BLM has since moved on to looking at the county conveyances. You'll remember there's some pretty significant acreage of direct conveyance and RNPP conveyance, and they're now working on that. On the special designation side, all WSAs have been released. That is administratively done. There will be NCA and wilderness area and special management area plans to come, but my suspicion is that's probably 3 to 5 years out after the BLM takes care of all the other administrative things associated with conveyances and everything else. Speaking of a lot of those conveyances, as you'll recall, most of the direct conveyances to the county were actually on lands managed by the Bureau of Reclamation. So BLM and Bureau of Rec are meeting, from what they tell us, twice a week to work through the logistics of how the lands have to go from BOR to BLM and then ultimately to the county.
So that, in addition to the survey, is also in process. As far as the mitigation goes and where the Navy is planning to go operational, there's a slide on the bottom of this sheet from their recent IEC meeting that kind of outlines their Gantt chart for where they're at. But in short, Dixie Valley Training Range will be the #1 area to go operational. Primarily what they're looking for there is to buy out the 2,000 to 2,500 acres of private land that are left. B-16 is a little bit more complex in that they have to reconstruct Sand Canyon Road and improve Lone Tree Road. The county's been in discussions with them to make sure that happens in a manner that meets everyone's expectations and, most importantly, the expectation of the law. And so that is moving forward. The Navy has funding requests in for both the design and the construction, and so we're hopeful to see the appropriations come through on that. B-17 and B-20 are further out, but some of the big lead time items are in process. So like when you start talking about B-17, they've already started some of the public outreach and looking for alignments on the realignment of Gabbs Valley Road or the highway, as well as the natural gas pipeline. One of the other big things that just came out, there's a draft tribal programmatic agreement and access agreement that was just published for public comment. Shifting away from the Navy for a moment, just to walk through some of the other things that we're tracking for you all. You'll remember in June we provided a bunch of comments on the Department of Interior's proposed conservation and landscape health rule. This would have kind of shifted how the BLM manages under their multiple use mandates and define conservation as a use, which is an interesting thing coming from someone that considers themselves a conservationist. We haven't heard anything formal. I've heard that DOI intends to publish a final rule, but I have not seen that, and Christmas is just around the corner, so that may be something we look at in 2024. They were also proposing new rules for renewable energy and rights-of-way, which would significantly reduce how much a developer has to pay for renewable energy projects on public lands. We did provide some comments on that, and again, nothing new. We're tracking the solar programmatic EIS. That's where the BLM would allow solar development across 7 western states. I anticipate that will be out for public comment in early 2024. My favorite one, and this is round 3 of this, BLM is updating their Greater Sage Grouse RMP. The county has been involved on that as a cooperating agency. We provided scoping comments almost a year ago now. They just released 2,000 pages for us to review between now and December 29th, so Merry Christmas. I will have a Santa hat on my stuffed sage grouse in the office for the next couple of weeks. That will probably come out, I would say, end of first quarter, beginning of second quarter of next year, and something that we'll definitely want to provide comments on. BLM Nevada had been floating the idea of moving forward with a statewide resource management plan update. That's kind of pertinent to this county because if you'll remember, we got to a final Carson City resource management plan, I believe under the Obama administration. When Trump came in, it got put on hold, and then the whole thing ended up being scuttled. So the Carson City plan is way out of date. I think it was updated maybe a couple times in the early 2000s, but everything else goes back to the 1990s. It needs to be updated. Their intent was to do it on a statewide basis. The Washington, D.C. office has not funded that effort. And so I guess the punchline of all this is the BLM's planning efforts kind of remain in limbo, at least for the time being. One item that would have been of importance to this county because of some of the public lands grazing that goes on, Department of Interior had planned on doing some grazing regulation updates. They have since decided not to move forward with that. Mining, not a ton to report specific to the Fondaway Canyon project, but I will note I was actually out recreating in Churchill County this weekend and noticed a very large helicopter towing what looked like a hula hoop and a big lens on it, so it piqued my interest. It's actually a USGS study that includes, I think, about the eastern 2/3 of Churchill County. It's a modeling project where apparently that lens can shoot subsoil and map subterranean up to 1,000 feet. And so what they're modeling for and looking for is hazards, so earthquake faults, but also the potential for liquid minerals such as lithium, and they also think there's a potential for some moly and some gold. So I didn't have time to obviously put that in the update for today.
What did you just say?
Moly, gold, and
Oh, moly,
lithium.
okay.
Yep. So I will send, because it's of interest, I will send along a link to the press release on that. NV Energy is still moving forward with their 500 kV project, Greenlink North. Nothing new to report. We did do scoping comments in June, and we will probably have another document out sometime in 2024. And the Vero fiber optic project that we're cooperating agency on just went out for NEPA review as well. The last one I'll touch on, just to say that there is some progress being made on the ground on some of this stuff. You'll remember earlier in the year, we provided scoping and I believe document-specific comments to the Clan Alpine Wild Horse Gather. That was actually conducted throughout most of the month of November with 1,600 horses gathered, so that should have got them within appropriate management level, which is a good thing.
1,600.
And then the rest of my slides really are more specifics to the Navy schedule for implementation and rollout. I won't bother to go through those, but Chairman, I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Jeremy? Or comments? I have a question. Every time we talk to the BLM about the checkerboard, it seems like they're passing it down the road further. Have they developed any guidelines for transfer of lands yet?
That is a phenomenal question, Chairman. I think they're still working through the logistics of how things go from BOR to BLM to us. So I would say they're working on it. I know it's frustratingly slow. Quite frankly, everything in the BLM right now is frustratingly slow. And that is not specific to Churchill County. A lot came through with the NDAA, and I will give them credit. Their staff is thin and they're super maxed out. So they're working on it. It's not like there's no progress being made, but what progress is being made is extremely slow.
And I see they did a horse gathering, and 1,600 horses, that's a lot of horses. What's that?
Still not enough.
Still not enough, yeah. Is the Navy considering the wild horses in any of this whole operation?
Chairman, another good question. So most of the Navy withdrawal does not overlap with wild horse and burro areas. It will be interesting to see, once the fences go up, if wild horses and burros move into those areas.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee while it's not in a herd management area, there are likely horses and burros in those areas. And so it wasn't a huge component of their environmental impact statement. A lot of folks did make comment to it, but we'll just have to see if a couple thousand horses end up in a withdrawal area, how the Navy will have to deal with it. But at this point, there's not a lot of overlap in formally designated areas.
The meetings that I've attended, the wild horses are not even discussed. So, okay.
Yep. I think the Navy's been close enough to the issue that they know they don't want to be in the horse management business.
What would that look like? If there were to be in withdrawal zones wild horses, who would have the authority for that type of situation?
Jim Barbie, for the record, I'd just add in that there has been discussion around B16 and some of the horse population that exists out there by the current permittee that's been given the 2-year notice. And he has stated on the record, that the expectation is that those aren't pushed out onto what remains of the permit once it is fenced. So just a little frame of reference that it is not exactly like Jeremy said, that it is not an overarching big problem in the larger scale of the 600,000 acres that are withdrawn, but there are parts and pieces, and I don't know that we have the answer of what it's going to look like, but I think we're going to see the answer of what it's going to look like, because they're going to have to deal with it at some level on B16, unless you think I'm off on that one.
Yeah,
But they only
correct.
they only did the gathering in the Clan Alpine.
Correct. Jeremy Drew for the record. So in that case, the herd management area is going to be immediately adjacent to B16, and as County Manager Barbie said, there are some horses that have spilled out of that boundary into the withdrawal area. What I would suspect, because I've seen this in other areas, is if the Navy ends up with a horse problem on the withdrawal, they will rely on BLM to gather that as part of gathering their adjacent herd management area. So they will consider those horses as they would anytime a horse walks out of the herd area. The challenge we've got with that area is I don't believe the NEPA has been cleared. What the permittee has suggested is part of mitigation for losing a significant portion of their allotment is to round up and get those horses into AML. It's not a super high priority because it's like hundreds of horses, not like thousands of horses like Clan Alpine. But it is something that will have a synergy, and if there's a potential for there to be overlap, it's probably going to be on B16 or the north end of B20 would be my suspicion.
Well, there's a lot
But
of
my
horses.
guess is the Navy would rely on the BLM to do the gathers because I don't think the Navy's going to want to do it themselves.
I think you're right. I think you're right. There's a lot of horses over on along the county road, along the west side of the Stillwaters. So, okay, any other questions? Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you all.
Item F, consideration possible action, ratification of an agreement between Churchill County Social Services and the U.S. Department of Agriculture Rural Utility Services in the amount of $70,925 for the distance learning and telemedicine. Shannon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the board. For the record, Shannon Ernst, Churchill County Social Services. So about this time last year, we put in an application, excuse me, with the USDA for this telehealth program. The overall goal was really to be able to provide telehealth services across Central Nevada Health District. At the time of application, the Central Nevada Health District did not have their unique identifier numbers for federal applications, their EIN, and things of that sort. So we did submit on their behalf. This was awarded the full $70,925 to purchase tablets and provide the IT support. In the application, the IT support is really the resource liaisons, community health workers, going out to the homes across the district area, placing these for individuals that cannot come into clinics all the time. It also was something that we modeled during COVID, which allowed us to link individuals to their providers and other services so that they didn't have those gaps during the pandemic. So these funds have been awarded. The goal is to sub-grant this to the Central Nevada Health District, which is the next agenda item if it's approved. Any questions I can answer at this time?
Any questions? Then I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the agreement as presented and to authorize the chair to execute the same.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agreement as presented and to authorize the chair to execute the same. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. Appointment G, consideration possible action ratification of a subrecipient agreement between Churchill County Social Services and the Central Nevada Health District for telehealth services in the amount of $70,925. Shannon?
Again, for the record, Shannon Ernst, Churchill County Social Services. So this is the actual sub-recipient agreement that we will enter into with Central Nevada Health District. It does outline those duties and what this looks like. Basically, Central Nevada Health District will provide the service, which is getting the actual tablets, placing those with the IT services, and then provide a report to us. We will have to have backup documentation and also who they provided these to so that we can report to USDA and meet the requirements. There is a match requirement of this, which would be the obligation of Central Nevada Health District to meet. This grant is just to purchase those and do the IT support. So the match can be used for actually getting the Verizon service or something like that to make these apps work, the tablets work.
Is the match going to be $70,000?
No, the match on this one, and I obviously did not write it down, I think it's 17,000. In which, when we looked at it, at applying, we were hoping it would cover the actual hookup to an internet service like we did here with CCCom, but it was not an eligible activity. And so we did work with Verizon at that time to make sure that we could meet that, and it was affordable, cost-effective.
11,710.
Thank you. You were faster than me today, Commissioner.
It was right on the screen.
Good job,
Easy.
Miles. Any other questions or comments? Then I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the agreement as presented and authorize the chair to execute the same.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agreement as presented and authorize the chair to execute the same. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Jeff, why do you write such long? Okay. This is a first reading, consideration possible action. Bill 2023B, ordinance number 7, an ordinance adding sections 3, 12, 24, which are pregnancy, childbirth, and related medical conditions, and 3, 12, 26, reasonable accommodations for victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, and modifying sections 3, 32, 140, which is standby, and 3, 36, 50, holidays, of Title III of the Churchill County Code for those employees under the direction or indirect jurisdiction of the Board of County Commissioners to extend of the law permitted by the state of Nevada. Now you get to talk.
Thank you. For the record, Joff Stark, Human Resources Director for Churchill County. And here before the board this afternoon, this afternoon for a first reading of this bill. These are pretty much just updates to Title III. Some of them are things that we have already had in effect. The pregnancy and childbirth and related medical conditions was something that was passed by the legislature in 2017. We've already put all this into effect, but we don't have it in our personnel policies spelled out. So this is a way to make sure our employees are aware of that. It just says that we will make accommodations for pregnant employees, and we won't discriminate against someone who is pregnant in our employment practices. Also, the legislature passed legislation about reasonable accommodation for victims of domestic violence or sexual assault. A lot of that is concerning them being able to have time off to deal with some of those issues that are related to that. Again, we have been enacting these policies, but we just want to enter it into Title III so employees are aware. As far as the change to standby pay, we are looking to, that section specifies which departments are in positions are eligible for standby pay. The Central Nevada Health District is requesting permission to be able to have one person in that position. And so this would give them the ability to designate that one person. They would have to have the budgetary resources to do it. But we want to enable them to be able to do so. And then the holidays, the change on that one is to officially designate June 19 of each year, which is Juneteenth. It's already recognized in the NRS, and we already recognize it as a county, but it's not on our list of holidays in Title III, so we just want to include that in the list. And so we're asking for a public hearing on January 4th so that we can move forward with these, and I'm open to any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments for Joff?
Joff, for the standby, is it full pay for the on-call, or is there a certain percentage we have to put in there?
It is $1.75 an hour, I
Is that
believe.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's just a portion, just a set fee for the time that they are on call. And then if they get called, then they would go into their full
full
pay
time.
for a minimum of 2 hours for a callback situation.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
You get the right one. I move to set a public hearing for Bill 2023-B, Ordinance 7, on January 4th, 2024.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to set a public hearing for Bill 2023B, Ordinance 7, on January 4th, 2024. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Unanimous, thank you.
Thank you. At least I was able to keep the motion short.
You did. This is appointment I. Approval of staff's recommendation to have Shaw Engineering proceed with alternative number 3 outlined in the secondary water treatment plant draft preliminary engineering report to place the new facility at the Fallon Golf Course, complete the environmental review, and finalize the draft report. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Chris Spross, Churchill County Public Works and Planning. So the item in front of you today, back in November of 2021, this board approved funding in the amount of $295,000 for Shaw Engineering to prepare the preliminary engineering report for our secondary water treatment plant. So as part of the draft, or one of the requirements of a preliminary engineering report is to identify some alternatives for the placement of the plant. Shaw Engineering has gone through and identified 3 alternatives. The first being do nothing. That's alternative number 1, and I don't think we're in a position to do that. Alternative number 2 is to construct a new plant at the golf course where the current wastewater treatment plant sits. And finally, recommendation number 3 was to expand the current Sand Creek plant by purchasing some property and installing new wells and tanks. After review of the report and in consultation with the county manager and Shaw Engineering, we reviewed the cost and the logistics of those 3 alternatives and kind of eliminated number 1. And there is a small but critical error in the motion that I just want to make everybody aware of. So staff is recommending that we go ahead and approve the location for the plant at the golf course. The reason that this is important at this stage is the draft is complete, but to finalize the preliminary engineering report, an environmental review has to be done. And the engineer obviously doesn't want to do environmental reviews on all the different alternatives. And so by selecting one now, that allows them to focus in on that environmental review and then complete the draft report, which will then come in front of this commission again as a finalized draft. And then upon approval of that will then become our preliminary engineering report. So staff is requesting that the board approve Shaw Engineering's alternative number 2, not alternative number 3. That was my mistake. So please, if you do decide to approve this, please change the motion to recommend alternative number 2, not number 3, which does place this at the golf course in the existing location of the wastewater plant that's not being used. At that point, I am open to any questions.
Any questions for Chris? Or comments? Then I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve Shaw Engineering proceeding with alternative number 2 outlined in the secondary water treatment plant draft preliminary engineering report to place the new facility at the golf course, complete the environmental review, and finalize the draft report.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Shaw Engineering proceedings with alternative number 2 outlined in the secondary water treatment plant draft preliminary engineering report to place the new facility at the golf course, complete the environmental review, and finalize the draft report. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Consideration possible action, approval of a construction contract between Churchill County and MS Construction in the amount of $99,850 to complete the tenant improvements at the Commercial Strip Mall located at 101 North Main Street, Unit 101 and 103, and to reserve up to $25,000 for potential unexpected costs. And it's an old building, I understand that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris Bross again for the record, Churchill County Public Works and Planning. So as part of the courthouse, everybody on this board is aware that we are going to have to demo the existing sheriff's office, the existing old sheriff's office. The sheriff is still using that office for certain functions. They're still using the office space in there for interviews, interrogations. They're also using it for training, for operations prep, as well as records and evidence storage. We're working on the records and evidence storage in another fashion. But the tenant improvements that we want to do at the building that we purchased there on the corner of A and 95 will outfit the sheriff with the appropriate number of office spaces for interviews, interrogations, and kind of a common space for training. So we solicited, we went out to contractors. We anticipated that this cost was going to be under $100,000, so that allowed us to go out and solicit bids without actually having the formal bid, public bid process. I went out to 4 contractors, 2 of which they opted not to give us a price, and 2 did. So at this point in time, I am requesting that the board approve a construction contract with MS Construction and Churchill County in the amount of $99,850. And then, as Commissioner Sharman has mentioned, this is an old building. We anticipate that we're going to find some unexpecteds, and so I'm requesting an additional $25,000 to execute change orders should we come across anything that needs to be dealt with, so that we don't have to come in front of this board again. And I'm requesting, I'm working with Mr. Sanford at this point in putting the contract together. Once that contract is complete, I'm requesting that the contract and any change orders that come up be executed by the county manager. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Chris or comments? Then I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve a construction contract between Churchill County and MS Construction for tenant improvements at the Commercial Strip Mall located at 101 North Main Street, Units 101 and 103, and to approve an additional $25,000 for potential unexpected costs for a total approval of $124,850. Furthermore, to authorize the contract and future change orders to be executed by the county manager.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the construction contract between Churchill County and MS Construction for tentative improvements at the Commercial Strip Mall located at 101 North Main Street, Units 101 and 103, and to approve an additional $25,000 for potential unexpected costs for a total approval of $124,850. Furthermore, to authorize the contract and future change orders to be executed by the county manager. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Appointment K, consideration possible action, adoption of Resolution 32-2023, a resolution endorsing the remodeling of 7 low-income housing projects in Churchill County by American Covenant Senior Housing Foundation Incorporated.
Commissioners, this is
Who's speaking on
Joe
this
Fritz.
one?
Mr. Fritz, you can go ahead.
All right, very good, thank you. Commissioners, we are in the process of acquiring these 7 different projects and combining 3 of them into what we call Fallon Family Housing and 4 of them into Fallon Senior. These are USDA 515 projects that carry rental assistance. And so they're for the very low income. And these projects are at least 15 years old. Most of them are much older. And they need to be updated to comply with current 504, the Disability Act issues, as well as just updating for insulation and other elements of housing. We're proposing that the total of the 2 projects be about $32 million at this point in time. That includes the acquisition. And would appreciate the Churchill County's endorsement of the project.
Any questions for Mr. Fritz? Any comments? I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt Resolution 32-2023, a resolution endorsing the remodeling of 7 low-income housing projects in Churchill County by American Covenant Senior Housing Foundation Incorporated.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt Resolution 32-2023, a resolution endorsing the remodeling of 7 low-income housing projects in Churchill County by American Covenant Senior Housing Foundation Incorporated. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you.
First reading, this is appointment I, or L, I should say. Consideration possible action of Bill 2023-C, ordinances 12 and 13, an ordinance amending Title 5 of the Churchill County Code to clarify the persons required to receive business licenses for special events, update persons required to receive employment certificates, remove the transmittal of fingerprint records by the Sheriff's Office to unauthorized parties pursuant to Nevada revised statutes, amend liquor license fees, and to do on an annual basis, and other related materials therefore, or thereto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I know that was my fault. Joff would blame me again. This is an ordinance brought at the request of the Sheriff's Office, which had been brought by a number of business owners who'd been struggling with some of these issues related to liquor license fees as well as employment certificates. And since we were working in there, we also did updates generally to Title V as it relates to the business licenses and business license requirements for certain types of events. So the first thing that happened is the special events They were exempted for persons utilizing the Churchill County Fairgrounds. That has been expanded to address any Churchill County facility instead of just specifically the fairgrounds. In particular, as it relates to the employment certificates, as it currently occurs, any person operating either a gaming or alcoholic beverage facility is required to have its employees fingerprinted and certified by the sheriff's office prior to their employment. That is not how it works in any of our surrounding jurisdictions, including the city. Instead, it's placed as the burden of the employer to work and certify their own employees, and then the sheriff would work on it as a license revocation for people who are hiring people that should not be hired. Finally, there is some current requirements in our code that when the sheriff runs a background check on an applicant, that they will transmit the results of that background check to the county commission. That's actually not allowed by transmitting background information directly to the county commission. And so this would remove that and instead have the sheriff just provide his opinion as to whether a person is or is not eligible for receipt of a liquor license. Finally, the liquor license fees are currently due on a quarterly basis. This leads to sheriff's office personnel having to track people down whenever they forget on a quarterly basis, and it's recommended it be changed to be once per year.
Any questions for Joe? Joe? Then I will entertain a motion.
I move to set a public hearing for January 4th, 2024 on Bill 2023-C, Ordinance 12 and 13.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to set a public hearing for January 4th, 2024 on Bill 2023-C, Ordinances 12 and 13. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. Thanks, Joe. Our last item, appointment M, update and notification of current status of a retransmission consent agreement negotiations from CC Communications. Anybody talking about that one?
I was expecting Mark Fest to be here.
I was expecting Mark Fest to be here as well, but I can give an update regarding this. I won't go into too much detail, but as the franchise authority for cable and television, this board has some control and information about the transmission of video broadcast. Presently, the way retransmission works is when a carrier, ABC, NBC, Fox, etc., they broadcast over the air, but if we want to include them in a cable television package, we have to pay them what is called a retransmission fee. That fee has been rising significantly over the years to the point that the cost has become prohibitively expensive for carriers. You may have seen recently that Charter and Disney had a fight, and there was Disney not available on the air as related to this exact same issue. We are having similar situations through CC Communications with the same major carriers, and it may result in some of these channels going dark starting January 1st of 2024, unless negotiations improve. So that would be for CC Communications customers as well as potentially Charter customers if they have the same issue. That's not clear at this time. They have a separate agreement and obviously have a different negotiating leverage and power given their size.
I can see why Mark wasn't here. There's no action required on this item. So thank you, Joe. Does anybody want to pull out any letters? Seeing none, we'll go on to new business. New business A, consideration possible action, adoption of Resolution 31, 2023, authorizing the clerk treasurer to sell property held in trust because of unpaid taxes, directing publication of the notice of the tax sale as provided in statutes and other matters properly relating thereto. Linda.
Good afternoon, Linda Rothery, Churchill County Clerk Treasurer for the record. This is my annual list that I send and bring to you guys for my tax sale for property taxes that haven't been paid. And this list is our slated parcels that will go to that sale, but we still have time for them to pay. So this is a resolution that I'm bringing for you that to approve that I can do this and proceed with my tax sale.
Any questions for Linda? Then I'll entertain a motion.
I move to adopt Resolution 31-2023, authorizing the sale of property held in trust by the Churchill County Clerk Treasurer for unpaid taxes and directing publication of the notice of tax sale as provided by NRS 361.59538.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt Resolution 31-2023, authorizing the sale of property held in trust by the Churchill County Clerk Treasurer for unpaid taxes and directing publication of the notice of tax sale as provided by NRS 361.59538. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thanks.
New business B, consideration possible action, reappointment of Josh Burney and John Wyatt Ghetto to serve another term as regular members of the Rachel Lunger to serve another term as alternate member on the Board of Equalization through December 31st, 2027.
Mr. Chair, seeing as John Wyatt Ghetto is my brother, I will abstain from any comment or voting on this agenda item.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Jim Barbie, for the record, staff is recommending these reappointments and would ask that you do so. Thank you.
Any questions? Let's move on then.
I move to reappoint Josh Burney and John Wyatt Ghetto as regular members and Rachel Lunger as an alternate member to the Board of Equalization through December 31st, 2027.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to reappoint Josh Burney and John Wyatt Ghetto as regular members and Rachel Lunger as an alternate member of the Board of Equalization through December 31st, 2027. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you. Without Miles voting. New business C, consideration possible action, reappointment of Jamie Sammons to the Churchill County Cemetery Board.
Mr. Chairman, Jim Barbie, for the record, this is by recommendation of staff and would ask that you make this reappointment. Thank you.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion then.
I move to reappoint Jamie Sammons to a 4-year term on the Churchill County Cemetery Board.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded to reappoint Jamie Sammons to a 4-year term on the Churchill County Cemetery Board. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. New business D, consideration possible action, approval of an advanced step placement of Richard Ingram as emergency manager, hiring him at step 7 of grade 59. Joff.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the board. For the record, Joff Stark, Human Resources Director for Churchill County. As you are aware, we do have a position of an emergency manager for the county. This is a part-time position that is 19 hours per week, unless there's a need for more hours if a situation arises. We did recently recruit for this position, and we had several applicants, but we had one really strong applicant, and that is Rich Ingram. As many of us are aware, Mr. Ingram served as the sheriff for Churchill County. He worked for 27 years with the sheriff's office. He's also worked in federal court security for the past 10 years. He's very familiar with the county, the different agencies here. He's held leadership roles in a variety of emergency situations. And so we are requesting to be able to hire him at an advanced step because of his the background that he brings to us. And so we're asking to hire him at step 7 of the pay range, which would be $36.55 an hour. If this is acceptable, he is willing to start working on Tuesday, the day after Christmas. So if you have any questions, I'd be willing to answer those at this time.
Any questions for Joff? Then I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the advanced step placement of Richard Ingram as emergency manager, hiring him at step 7 of grade 59.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the advanced step placement of Richard Ingram as emergency manager, hiring him at step 7 of grade 59. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Unanimous. Thank you. New business E, consideration possible action, approval of job description and pay grade for CNHD Public, Churchill, Central Nevada Health District, Public Health Preparedness Planner.
Good afternoon. Again, for the record.
Mr. Chairman, before you take this up, I had a question of clarity for Joe on council. I thought we had taken action I thought the commission had taken action giving the Central Nevada Health District authority to do these themselves. Was that a dream? Possibly.
I know that we had authorized them to make any advanced steps that were being made for any employee. I believe this is an entirely new position being created, and so that was not, my understanding was that was not included in the prior discussion.
And for the record, I guess that would be my understanding as well. This is part of, as we deal with having Central Nevada Health District, they are county employees, and Title III says all job descriptions for county employees have to be approved by the Board of County Commissioners and assigned to pay grade by the board. So it's kind of a...
And that's where I was asking clarity, because we took some action, so I'm not totally crazy, but I was like, when I saw this come up on the agenda, I'm like, are we being redundant here on something that we had already approved Central Nevada Health District to do as because they are ultimately a separate entity?
Correct. We have authorized them when they go to fill this position to fill it with any employee at any step that they feel is appropriate, but we have not authorized them to create positions within the county.
Thank you for clarity.
For the record, Joff Stark, and as we were discussing, a lot of this is pretty much a housekeeping issue for the county on our side. This job description for a public health preparedness planner for Central Nevada Health District was approved by the CNHD board last week, and they assigned it to pay grade 55, which was our recommendation. And so now we are just bringing this before the board so that it can be formally approved by the county board and brought into our, if you will, inventory of jobs so that we will know what the pay grade is for that position and how to appropriately take care of it. Again, as Joe Sanford has said, they have the liberty to hire at any step within the pay grade that they feel they will need to, as long as it works within their budget. So we would not come back to the board for any approval of an advanced step placement. So with that, I'll take any questions you may have.
Any other questions for Joff? Then I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the job description for Public Health Preparedness Planner, assign it to pay grade 55, and authorize the hiring for the position.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the job description for the Public Health Preparedness Planner, assign it to a pay grade of 55, and authorize the hiring of the position. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Consideration possible action, election of chair and vice chair positions for the Board of County Commissioners, Highway Commission, and CC Communications Manager, and designation of board or committee assignments for 2024.
Pam, are we doing this now, or are we going to wait till January?
No, we do it now, generally.
Because it's also wrong, I think, in this one.
Because it's mentioning Greg
Mentions
Koenig.
in the board action. So we'll just scratch that? Okay.
So what you're, after you make your decisions about what you're going to do, then just do as listed. Yeah.
Any comments?
And this is Jim Barbie for the record, sorry. I don't normally tip into this conversation and let you guys horse out where you want to be, but I know we are having some changes in those that may be looking at office under the next election process. So all I would say is I would ask you to take that consideration as you look at who you're going to select as chair for the commission. And with that,
Well, I would suggest Miles would be a good chair for the commission. I mean, I'll stay there if you need me to, but I still think that it would be a good change over
No,
to
I agree.
let Miles do it.
So we'll make a change there.
More than happy to do it. Who's going to be my vice chair? Do you want to be vice chair, Buzz?
Yeah,
Okay.
I will be the vice chair. That would be fine. Who would like to chair the Highway Commission?
I can continue with that.
Okay, and I'll go ahead and take CCCOM.
Could I keep CCCOM?
Yeah, you can keep it if you want.
I think so.
That's fine.
I'd like to keep CCCOM, yeah.
All right. All right.
We need vice chairs for the CC and Highway Commission as well.
Buzz, you want vice chair for CC?
Yeah, I'll do that.
And I'll just stay vice for Highway Commission.
We can do that.
Okay.
Did we want to move around any of our boards or keep those all the same?
Let's keep them the same.
Okay.
Is that okay?
you made Pam very happy.
Are you okay with that, Pam?
Thank you. No painful discussion for 20 minutes.
No, it was longer last time.
So what we've got right now is Miles as chair and I vice chair for County Commission. Justin is the chair for the Highway Commission, and Miles is the vice chair. And Miles is the chair for CCCOM, and I'm the vice chair. So I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the positions as listed.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the positions as listed. Pam, do you have record of all that?
Yes, I do, thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Unanimous, thank you. We'll go to G. Consideration possible action, issuance of a request for proposals to develop 2255 Casey Road for commercial public accommodation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Joe Sanford for the record. Mr. Chair, this is a request for proposals for development of 2255 Casey Road, that is more commonly known as the Casey Road Mobile Home Park. We are requesting for proposals for commercial public accommodation, motels, hotels, something of that nature. Part of this proposal includes a cleanup of the property and the standard language for return of the property if they don't end up building.
Are we going to lay the cleanup of the property over onto the whoever is going to purchase the property?
It's included in the proposals for them to make a proposal as to how they wish to handle it. So they can request that the county pay for it, they can request that they do it themselves and split the cost, and that'll be included as part of the, I guess, metrics to be determined as to the successful proposer.
And this is only the mobile home park, it's not the small alfalfa field right next to it, right?
It is not. We do not own that property.
Okay.
Joe, and this includes that condemned house too, right?
Yes, it does.
All that, okay.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion if we don't have any more questions.
I move to approve the issuance of a request for proposals to develop 2255 Casey Road for commercial public accommodations.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the issuance of a request for proposals to develop 2255 Casey Road for commercial public accommodation. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous, thank you. New business H, consideration possible action, adoption of resolution 33-2023, authorizing the district attorney to file and enforce liens in code enforcement cases exceeding $5,000.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, Joe Sanford for the record. This resolution is an authorization for the District Attorney's Office to assist the code enforcement officer in establishing liens and enforcing liens in cases of code enforcement violations. As it currently stands, we have a number of cases where fines and violations are issued to property owners. Those fines accrue, but there's limited enforcement action from that point. This would authorize us to create and establish a lien for cases that are over $5,000, and then to take the necessary action to actually enforce that lien in the event of non-payment. And that includes potentially filing a lawsuit to foreclose on the property.
Any questions for Joe? Then I'll entertain a motion.
I move to adopt Resolution 33-2023, authorizing the Churchill County District Attorney's Office to file and enforce liens and code enforcement actions exceeding $5,000.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt Resolution 33-2023, authorizing the Churchill County District Attorney's Office to file and enforce liens in code enforcement actions exceeding $5,000. All in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. We'll go to new business I. Consideration possible action authorization for counsel to pursue dismissal of the remaining defendant in the opioid litigation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, Joe Sanford for the record. We are finalizing the last pieces of the opioid litigation. There is one outstanding defendant. It is an individual person who is been convicted of a crime and has essentially no assets. And so at this time, we'd like your authorization to allow our counsel to dismiss them from any further action, as it's unlikely to result in any funds to the county. At this point in time, the opioid litigation and the recoveries appear to have been highly successful in terms of Nevada's recovery compared to the rest of the nation. And so this would wrap up this portion of the litigation.
Any questions for Joe? Then I'll entertain a motion.
I move to authorize our counsel to dismiss claims against the remaining defendant in the opioid litigation.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize our counsel to dismiss claims against the remaining defendant in the opioid litigation. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. New business J, consideration possible action removal of Jim Barbie as one of the Churchill County representatives on the Central Nevada Health District Board and appoint Pete Olson to the board as a Churchill County representative.
Mr. Chairman, Jim Barbie for the record. When we created and worked through this process of creating a Central Nevada Health District, it was stated initially in that kind of in-between period that the plan would be that Shannon and I would be on there to start to try to get things operational and keep things moving forward, and then would look to remove ourselves and have community representation brought forward on that. Luckily, I identified the first representation, and Shannon's working on her replacement. So I bring forward a request that you fire me with a smile and look at the appointment of Pete Olson to replace me as a community representative sitting on the Central Nevada Health District.
Any other questions?
Joe, this doesn't go against the 12-year term limit, does it? Of Pete?
No.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion. Somebody want to make a motion?
Motion to approve Pete Olson to the Churchill County or the Central Nevada Health District Board.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Pete Olson to the Central Nevada Health District Board. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Very good. The last thing on our list is K. Consideration for possible action, approval of a letter of strategic strategies 360, informing them of the county's decision not to renew its contract for lobbying.
Mr. Chairman, Jim Barbie again for the record. Looking at some of the adjustments and changes that we're making in positions, including the assistant county manager position that we're currently recruiting for, and some of the costs associated with that. We're looking to offset some of those costs with the elimination of the lobbying contract, which basically works for us at the state legislature level, recognizing that we don't have big initiatives that we're bringing forward in the upcoming session. I have talked to John Osagara and made him aware that we're looking at doing this, and he recognizes that and that we appreciate their service and that they've done good service for us but that we're looking at basically tracking some of those bills and having this assistant manager working with Joe on some of those works and activities as we move forward into the next session, but that we appreciated his service, and we're not replacing them, we're just basically modifying how we're moving forward in the future. And he appreciated the I think last 4 years that they've been under contract with the county on a year-to-year rolling contract. So he's aware, and we would ask that you approve this action.
Any other questions for Jim? Then I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve a letter to Strategies 360 notifying them of the county's decision not to seek renewal of a contract.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve a letter of to Strategies 360, notifying them that the county's decision not to seek renewal of the contract. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Unanimous. Does anybody want to pull out anything having to do with consent letters? Then I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as listed. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Future agenda items? I think we have a few that are already listed for January 4th. Hearing none from our commissioners, we'll move on. Commissioner management staff reports. I attended the I can't remember what it was called. The PERS luncheon at the Elks Hall last week. It was really nice. I was able to see a lot of my old friends. And that was about it. They had a nice meal. And that's the only thing I attended. I have to leave at about 5:30 for a Carson Water Subconservancy District meeting in Carson City today. Justin.
I attended a Parks and Rec meeting and also a museum committee meeting. Wow.
I had an RTC meeting this morning, and just want to wish everyone Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and I'll see you next year.
Jim?
Just we had as folks were aware, we had a great employee appreciation season holiday dinner in the last couple of weeks, and just would wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and hope that you have a great New Year, and we'll see you on the other side.
Sherry?
Just thank you for approving the audit. Now we're rolling into budget season. Good times. Thank you.
Okay.
Merry
Joe?
Christmas, everyone, and barring a lottery win, I guess I'll see you next year as well.
Oh, yes, so that's.
Okay. Linda, you have anything?
We have mail ballots going out for our presidential preference primary. Judicial candidate filing starts the day after New Year's. Tax sale preparation we've started that. And then, of course, we continue working with delinquent taxes. So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everybody.
Thank you. I doubt if Julianne has anything, so I'll just slide right over to, you don't have anything? I'll go right over to Pam. Pam, you have anything?
No, I don't. Merry Christmas.
All right.
Under Sheriff?
Sheriff.
Claims and payrolls.
Nothing?
Might be Debbie Downer, but we do have an uptick in some thefts and stuff. So around this time, our guys got some leads on suspects, so hopefully we'll get that taken care of. And the sheriff is currently in Texas. Not necessarily enjoying it, but he's there. Discovered Buc-ee's.
Okay.
Love Buc-ee's. That's the place to go. It's a gas station, but it's like a shopping center.
Ann, do you have anything? Steve, do you have anything? Merry Christmas. Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and do claims and payrolls. Anything there at all? And our last public comment. We are adjourned.